technical difficulties, please reach out through the chat. So just to get us going, we've all seen the headlines: federal grants for solar projects that have been canceled or restricted, dozens of Ohio counties that have banned large-scale solar projects. You may have heard about the recent analysis that was released by Save Ohio Parks and found that Ohio restrictions on wind and solar energy products for the past decade have cost Ohio more than 5.3 gigawatts of generation capacity in projects that were denied or withdrawn. So that is really dismal. But despite these headwinds, Southwest Ohio communities are investing in solar to reduce their carbon footprints and achieve savings as electricity costs continue to rise. Today, we'll hear from 4 of our region's sustainability leaders who have successfully brought forward solar projects with a combined capacity of more than 62 megawatts of clean energy, how they were able to build support and overcome obstacles to keep their projects on track, and their insights and takeaways for other communities. So let's introduce our panel. Rena Murphy is the Sustainability Coordinator for the City of Oxford and is responsible for climate action planning and implementation. She also serves on the Board of Directors for SOPEC. She's passionate about equitable community engagement and finding practical solutions for government operations, residents, and businesses. Rena is an alumna of Miami University and holds a Master of Environmental Science and a Bachelor of Arts in Chemistry. Jillian Hart serves as the Sustainability Program Manager for the City of Fairfield, leading the implementation of the city's Sustainability Action Plan. Fueling her work is a deep passion for the environment, sustainability, and community well-being, ensuring that Fairfield's goals become tangible, positive realities for its residents. Oliver Kroner is the Director of the City of Cincinnati Office of Environment and Sustainability. His work focuses on climate science and urban policy, including energy, transportation, waste, and food systems. He leads collaboration of government and community partners I'm so sorry. My computer is stuck. And has presented his work around the world. He leads collaboration of government and community partners to advance and track the sustainability, equity, and resilience strategies of the Green Cincinnati Plan. And he has presented his work around the world, including the United Nations Convention on Climate Change, ICLEI World Congress, National League of Cities, Project Drawdown, International Congress on Sustainability, Science, and Engineering, Green Build, and more. He also serves on the boards of several local nonprofits that are focused on sustainability and community development, including the U.S. Green Building Council Lead for Cities Working Group, Mill Creek Alliance, Cincinnati 2030 District Working Group, and So Valley. And finally, in her role as the Sustainability Manager for the City of Dayton, Meg Maloney advocates for a more sustainable future for Dayton residents and businesses through energy and environmental justice programs. In this role, she's helped save more than $11 million for residents and small businesses through Dayton's energy programs and has secured more than $35 million in sustainability grants. Meg has also helped identify, just in the last year, over $3 million in savings through utility billing, auditing, and curtailment for City of Dayton facilities. She's passionate about advocating for the redevelopment of divested communities and works to turn blighted sites into community assets. Over the past 2 years, Meg has been recognized for her sustainability work and was honored by the Dayton Business Journal as an innovator under 25 and part of the 2026 40 under 40 class. She was also awarded the best sustainability staff member in the state by the Ohio Mayor's Alliance and the top sustainability leader for the Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio region. So before we get into questions, again, feel free to submit your questions using the Q&A feature that you can access from the bottom right of your screen, that little square there, and we'll have time for Q&A after the panel discussion. So let's get into it. Our first question for the panel. What, if any, obstacles did you encounter while bringing your project together, what were the key factors that brought buy-in and made stakeholders say this is not a barrier to moving forward? For Cincinnati and Dayton, I'm wondering if you discovered new models or innovations with these projects. And for Fairfield and Oxford, this was the first solar project for your communities. So wondering what lessons from these projects you're incorporating into your future solar and renewables plans and strategies. We'll start with Rena.
Yeah. So our main project this year is a just shy of a 1 megawatt AC array at our wastewater treatment plant. We're super excited about this. This array will get about a 10% emissions reduction for all of city government. That is how much electricity our wastewater treatment plant uses, which is a key project in our goal to be 50% reduced by 2030. Key obstacles that we encountered for this project is just sort of like the fear of the unknown, right? This is our first solar project at critical infrastructure site. And the way we were able to keep it moving forward was by connecting staff within our team with other cities, Fairfield being one of them, and also Miami University. We did a collaborative tour of Miami's solar array, and we got our engineers out there, we got our wastewater plant staff out there, and it just allowed folks to ask questions of their peers that started to release the fear of the unknown and build excitement for the project. So we are really excited about this project.
That's great. Anything you want to say about future projects?
Yes. Sorry. So one of the challenges we are having with this project is we are undergoing a more extensive system impact study than we anticipated with our distributor. But now, as of the end of last month, Duke and I believe other Ohio distributors have capacity maps posted publicly, and I can drop the link in the chat for Duke's. But if you are looking to install solar in your community, and I recommend starting where you see there may be capacity, because our timeline has been a bit delayed to address the system impact study.
Great. Jillian.
Hi, everyone.
Let's talk about Fairfield.
Yes. Good afternoon. Super excited to be here and talk about this project. So a little bit of background. This is a project that the city of Fairfield has wanted to do for a long time, and the finances just never really made sense until now. You know, previously when we wanted to do this project, rates were at like 4 to 6 cents per kilowatt hour, and now we're seeing upwards of 10 cents. So we couldn't have picked a better time to start this project. With that being said, timeline was something that we were always keeping in the back of our mind when we thought of potential barriers to this project. Some of the barriers that we encountered were long lead times on some of the contents for the array, and then also just being aware of how long things like Rena mentioned, a site assessment or interconnection agreement will take. So we tried to plan for those things on the front end. So now as we're moving into implementation and we're finishing up construction, we're not running into those issues. So it's kind of like bittersweet, good and bad, because we have had to wait, but we sort of accounted for that time. And then the factors that allowed us to sort of get that stakeholder buy-in from our elected officials, it was really focusing on efficiency and cost savings and the ability to keep our rates stable for our utility and taxpayers. This array will eventually pay for itself in about 10 to 12 years. And then after that, we'll start generating revenue and saving $2.5 million in its lifetime after all of those capital costs are paid. So that was the way that we were able to get that external stakeholder buy-in as well. And then internally, like for our wastewater treatment folks and our staff who might be wary to, attaching this kind of array from an outside vendor to our critical infrastructure that has its own communication systems and is always security is top of mind. We did the same thing, like Rena said, just visiting other municipalities, other solar arrays, seeing what other people have done, and talking with their engineers and their wastewater folks to learn more. What this means for future projects, we've been very fortunate that for the most part, things have moved pretty smoothly. And so we're looking to hopefully expand into other utility scale projects in the future.
That's awesome. All right, Ollie Kroner.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Center Hill.
Hey, everybody. Cincinnati has had a commitment to achieve 100% renewable energy by 2035 since 2018, and we've been taking every step we can to move in that direction. So we have built a 100 megawatt power purchase agreement just outside the city that feeds into our city facilities and our community choice aggregation program that powers 80,000 households here. And one by one, we're installing solar on our facilities. So we now have north of 30 city facilities that have rooftop solar. Center Hill is a city-owned landfill that ceased operation in the 1970s and has sought new economic purpose since then. There have been a few failure to launch opportunities along the way. I think we're all in Ohio. You probably know that Ohio cities are primarily funded by earnings tax. So the city's always had deep interest in projects that will create jobs so that there is funding. One of the big things we had to overcome in this project is shifting that mentality and presenting the case that we can actually generate more revenue by generating energy than we could by generating jobs on this site. And the site itself has been problematic. It's an old landfill. It is releasing methane. It is shifting as debris settles underneath the cap. So it's just been very challenging to do anything with. When the Inflation Reduction Act passed, we saw that there was opportunity. There were new tax credits available for brownfields, so old contaminated sites, to be redeveloped as bright fields, solar sites. So we did a scan of all of the brownfields in the city to understand where we had the most opportunity, and this landfill was the very top of the list. So we put a case in front of our city manager and in front of our mayor and pitched a vision for what it could be. Along the way, some of you may remember Solar for All. There was a big grant opportunity where many of us, many governments in Ohio, received some funding to help install solar projects. So we were part of a few different teams that were awarded funding, and we understood that we would receive $10 million to subsidize this project. We had a vendor picked, we had a project scoped, we had our financing in place, and then the Big Beautiful Bill rescinded that grant and rewrote all of the tax code. So all of a sudden we had a very short timeline to make something happen. So through a willing partner, through a creative financing team, we reworked the deal and structured this as two 4.9 megawatt projects, one on either side of the road there, one of which the city will purchase outright and will own, the other which will be structured as a power purchase agreement where our partner will install, own, and operate, but we will contract to purchase all of the energy. Those two models blended together create about 10 megawatts and begin to deliver savings on our monthly utility bills in probably year 2 or 3. Although the way the market is moving, energy market is moving right now, I think we might exceed those expectations. It's a 64-acre site. We'll probably use about 2/3 of that for solar. It will be the equivalent of about 1,700 homes worth of annual energy consumption, projected to save $10 million over the project lifetime and save us 16,000 metric tons annually. Right now, we are negotiating to add a battery to the project to add grid storage and strengthen the performance of the project.
That's awesome. All right, Meg.
Great. Hi, everyone. So we also have several solar projects that we've been working on. We have one behind our water treatment facility and one that we're working to finalize and contract at our airport. But this is definitely the largest one and our first front of the meter solar project. So for those that don't know what that means that are on this call, it's essentially behind the meters when it's powering a certain load, like a building, like our water treatment plant or our airport. This one was a project where we are feeding it into the grid to go eventually to our residents. So a challenge with these front of the meter projects and with just community solar in general in Ohio is there's no like legislative mechanism to make solar work. So I always joke that Dayton doesn't like to do things first. We like to learn from other people and then try it again. And so thankfully, Cincinnati created a model where they put solar on the grid through their aggregation program. And we copied a very similar model essentially for this project. So how it works is we have around 250 acres completely in city limits. We added this parcel into the city in the 1980s to develop for manufacturing. It's right on the border of Dayton and Trotwood. We got a lot of pushback when there were developers interested in building large manufacturing sites on it, which made solar a little bit more appealing to the residents that live nearby, because while construction's a little noisy, post-construction, it's a pretty quiet neighbor. We had a paper mill that was going to go across the street originally that we got a lot of pushback on. So solar is a lot better than the truck traffic you would receive if a paper mill went across the street. So we had a unique opportunity where the developer was already interested in the site. So the city did not actually recruit the developer. The developer was already interested in it. And what we decided to do was work to procure all the energy off the site and put it into our electric aggregation program. This was a little bit of a unique deal because we are part of SOPEC. So thanks SOPEC for hosting today's call. And essentially SOPEC is helping us leverage their communities, their aggregate of communities, to help move this power not only to go to the city of Dayton residents, but also we can give it to other SOPEC communities if we're interested too, if SOPEC communities in Southwest Ohio are interested in off-taking some of the load. So that's a really unique part of this project too that I don't think we've seen a whole lot of, and again, encourages this kind of community mindset. It will power roughly 30% of our city's electric aggregation program, so that's 14,000 homes. And over the life of the project, we predict it will save us around $42 million. Construction is going to start in 2027 with hopefully completion on my birthday in February 2028. So I thought it was also very serendipitous that their operation date happens to be my birthday. So that will be a fun little birthday present. We had several obstacles bringing this project together. I think the biggest thing for us is negotiating with large energy companies. You still need a supplier to put it in. The program AEP was a really great partner in this, but again, governments are risk adverse, energy companies are risk adverse. So I think one of our challenges was just getting on the same page and making sure everyone felt comfortable with the agreement. We've had less obstacles in terms of interconnection because this is interconnection into the transmission grid through PJM. Just so everyone is aware, it's going to have taken them over 10 years to get this project actually in the ground from when they first submitted into PJM to it actually being energized. So that is a long time. While our distribution utilities a little quicker, are one of our energy projects. I was just telling Jillian earlier on this call that one of our projects for our water treatment plant, it's been in interconnection for over close to a year with our utilities. So interconnection, I think, is definitely our biggest obstacle. Again, I think that discovering new models or innovation, I can't claim credit that we were innovative in this model because we definitely did a copy and paste, but I think the innovation definitely came from the fact that we leveraged our relationship with SOPEC and our member communities. That was something that I know our mayor and commission were really excited about too, and that it can benefit other communities in SOPEC as well. So we're very grateful for that partnership. And yeah, I think I answered hopefully all the questions.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the next question, what unique challenges has your community faced when evaluating solar projects? What kinds of strategies, tools, and partnerships are you seeking or developing for future projects? And we're back to Rena.
Yes, I would say that our wastewater treatment plant is our first successful solar project, but it's not the first one we tried. We also tried to put solar on on our closed municipal landfill and was unsuccessful. So when evaluating solar projects, we learned that for us, it's easier to do behind the meter, so connecting directly into a facility. And so that has been our focus for now, is focusing where we can put behind the meter arrays for city projects. For strategies, tools, and partnerships, we've definitely leveraged our partnership with Power Clean Future Ohio. They provided us a solar assessment. We have also gotten support from SOPEC. And then partnerships also depend on the, sorry, pausing for the feedback.
I think it's Jennifer. So Jennifer, I'm going to mute you. Okay, try again, Rena.
Thanks, Meg. Sorry. For strategy, tools, and partnerships, it really does depend on the facility. Not every city-owned facility for us is city-run. So I'm actually really excited to share that we are also solarizing our senior center and anticipate moving forward on that project. And so partnering with a nonprofit and having their support for that project has been really wonderful, because there is a nonprofit entity that runs senior services within the city-owned facility. So their support has been great on the nitty-gritty project level, but then, our local partnerships through PCFO, SOPEC, Green Umbrella, and then also the other folks on this call, right? We are a cohort of peers who are always trying to learn from each other, and really grateful for their mentorship along the way.
Great. Jillian?
Yeah, absolutely. So a unique challenge that we faced was our sizing of the array when we first started. We initially thought that the array was going to be much bigger than it ended up the final product turning out to be. And that was for a few reasons. One was going through that interconnection process. We learned that if our array was bigger than the size that it is, which is 1.5 megawatts, we would have to do major infrastructure upgrades to our plant's infrastructure, like a brand new transformer and some other upgrades that were kind of out of budget and not within like the timeline of when we would normally upgrade these sort of things at our wastewater treatment plant. So in the future, for future projects, that's something for sure that we're going to take into account, is the sizing. The other thing too, when we were considering the size of the array, was this is when we started to get wind about possible changes to legislation at the federal level. So we were able to secure the federal ITC rebate, investment tax credit, through the IRA program for this array. But if we were to size up the array, that was going to change our timeline drastically, trying to adhere to the new regulations that at the time was, we didn't know what was going on or what was going to pass or what was going to happen. And so, yeah, being just super mindful of our size. And then, so for strategies, tools, and partnerships for future projects, biggest one, like Rena said, is using our network, the folks that are on this call. And like Meg said as well, we don't want to be the first, but we definitely want to be the second, in leveraging our network and the folks who have done it before or in the process. And that's kind of what we're here today to talk about, is our process. And for the folks that are listening on the call, please feel free to use all of us as a resource for your questions and understanding our experience so that you have a successful project as well. The other partnerships that I would take into account are our memberships in PCFO, Green Umbrella, and our memberships with, or our partnerships with folks at like Go Sustainable, who helped us with some financial and energy modeling before Again, when we were in that sort of sizing aspect of the project, definitely taking a holistic look of what we can expect before we get into the nitty gritty.
In Cincinnati, this is not a unique challenge, but paying for it is always the hardest part. You have to have money up front. Even with these nice tax credits, you have to pay all the money on the front end and then get it back later. The return on investment is longer than many alternative investments, and put differently, solar is expected to have a return on investment in the way that other capital investments aren't. So it's always an uphill battle for this type of project. We have very old buildings, so often if you're looking at rooftop solar, the roof needs a major investment before you can even think about what might go on top of it. Historically, we've had pretty cheap electricity, which makes it harder for solar to compete. Right now, we have this incredible volatility in the energy market. We have rapidly increasing energy prices, which is painful, but as some would point out, is also a market signal that we need more energy generation, more battery storage. So the economics of this are really changing in real time right now. As I sort of said, when we initially modeled our Center Hill project and started to look at what pricing, we expect pricing to do over time, we're already many years out. The pricing has already increased far more than we expected it to today. And maybe that's largely due to Iran, but I think we've seen prices go up faster than they come down, and we expect that to be the case. We are in Ohio. Ohio does not have virtual net metering and other policies that could make a lot of this much easier, so we've had to be innovative in how to build solar where we can build it. And Meg described front of the meter, behind the meter. We're charting new territory for front of the meter projects and finding ways to still make them work. In a nutshell, financing this stuff is the hard part. And I didn't go to school for finance. I'd be surprised if any of my sustainability colleagues did. They have named folks like PCFO and Go Sustainable and SOPEC, and there's this network of players in Ohio alongside the offices we work within that are trying to figure this out together. And I have benefited greatly from the formation of a team of Green Bank partners here in Cincinnati, Cincinnati Development Fund, Donovan Energy, our county, have all really helped educate me on what tools are available to help bring money to these projects. The vocabulary I need to talk with different financiers. And I think that's really the crux of the issue as we think about how we scale this work.
Thank you. All right, Meg.
Yeah, I think one of our challenges, I won't belabor the point, but the financing is our first one as well. We don't have money up front for any of our sustainability projects. So all the projects that we've done in the city of Dayton have been kind of leaning on partnerships or grants in order to get them done. So that has been unique. And I think also, again, like there's a lot of, we don't have the same types of legislation that other states do. I think it's really nice that we're a deregulated state. I think the vertically integrated states have their own set of challenges, obviously, of getting renewables online. So that makes us unique. One of the tools that we have developed is we do have a great relationship with our utility. We utilize rate case models to get help with our solar projects. So we have gotten a policy to develop a project that's not on the same parcel of land, or to develop solar not on the same parcel of land as a building. So while it's not completely virtual net metering, it's a policy that kind of mirrors that, because we have land available to develop solar on, and we're trying to pair it with a building that's, close by. And so again, working with our utility to kind of open the door to some of these possibilities where the legislation is not there yet, is a benefit, because it also benefits the utility, like the grid reliability piece, and adding solar on is a benefit to them as well as a benefit to us. I always say this, so if you've been on calls with me before, you'll hear me say this like a million times, but I studied salamanders in college. So while getting into the energy field is always something that I said it was a challenge for me. And so I do really rely on partnerships. We've had, great statewide partners, city partners, and consultants that are like, there's a whole team of people that kind of build up to help us execute these projects. So a lot of times I feel like I'm just like a project lead that kind of manages all those relationships, but we bring a lot of folks to the table that know the financing, that know the engineering, that know the construction, and so that they can kind of execute, because again, a city government, we want to do innovative work, but sometimes we just don't have the expertise. So like without the partnerships, I don't think we'd be able to do any of this work. That's, I think, something that's really important to me, and that I've seen across other cities too, is, as Ollie mentioned, like he's not a finance major, and neither was I. So I was going to say some of these financing pieces, we really rely on these external groups as well. And then for developing of future projects, I think what we're really looking at too is like the balance of all of this. Like we want to have renewable energy really quickly, but at the same time, like these projects do cost money. The costs of these projects are increasing. So it is kind of like this balance of, we know energy prices are increasing, and we know bringing your own generation can help save money, but also the cost of all these materials are also going up. So I think that for future projects, what we've been really looking at is, like, for example, in our aggregation program, we want to put more locally owned assets in. But at the same time, we also want to balance to make sure those prices that we're getting are still very competitive and help, provide price stability and can keep prices stable. So I think that is kind of something that we've been balancing. I wish market conditions were a little different, that we could move quicker, but on some of this, it is kind of like a game of math. And, we represent a third of our residents live in poverty. So I'm very mindful of like ensuring that the projects that we're doing do have a higher probability of saving money than having residents pay more money. So, and again, that math balance that we're doing there, like that, figuring that all out does take a lot of folks, because I think, I know Ollie and I have talked about this at length. You get a lot of different opinions and advice from people, and you as a city have to make a decision or present that information to your commission and mayor or council and mayor and help them make that decision. And so that can be difficult too, because there's a lot of different perspectives on like what cities should be doing around energy, because the energy markets are so volatile that we're kind of in a space that hasn't been seen before. Yeah.
Great. Okay, we're going to do one more question and then open up for questions from the group. This question is, how can communities maintain momentum on sustainability goals during extended periods of policy uncertainty? What has made the difference in your communities? And
I would say nothing is more motivating than a deadline. So when we had until the end of 2025 to safe harbor a project, boy, we did it. And we did it at the last council meeting of the year, but it got done. So in some ways that kind of gave us the kick in the butt that we needed. But outside of that, really our momentum comes from our community and our elected officials. Sustainability is a value of our residents, and they tell us that often. So I'm very grateful that we generally have the support of our community and our council to pursue these projects. But we are also then not unaffected, right, by the vastly changing landscape. So our approach has been to focus on what is in our control, what we can afford at the moment, while we kind of earn our reps and learning all the financing side. So what's in our control, what can we directly afford from our current finances, and then just focusing on the benefit and the people, right? So yeah, that's how we're maintaining momentum.
Great. All right, Jillian.
Awesome. Yeah, I might be in a slightly different boat than Rena. In our community and to some of our elected officials, sustainability might be a politically charged word, which I think a lot of us can relate to, people that we know in our lives or maybe in our community, where we come up against that challenge of trying to get folks to understand the benefit of the work that we're doing. And so for us, what we do to get that long-term buy-in to maintain that momentum is to focus on the efficiencies, focus on the savings, focus on the long-term benefit. And when we sort of adjust the language and adjust the lens to focus on that, it seems to help people understand, like, okay, you know, this is going to pay off eventually, and then it will produce savings. And we can use those savings to reinvest in other quality of life initiatives for our residents. And that's kind of how we frame the work, is, you know, that reinvestment and that long-term economic development and overall sustainability. But yeah, for us, it's focusing more on the long-term efficiencies, not just in energy, but in a lot of the sustainability work we do.
That's great. And one of your council members who spoke at the tour of the solar array last night talked about how Fairfield's not a huge city. It's 44,000 people. And there aren't that many cities of that size that even have sustainability staff. So they've already made a commitment, and it's great to see them, you know, see you all moving forward. And next we have Ollie again.
I agree with that statement, Jennifer, and it feels like more and more we're seeing smaller municipalities step up, which is one of the really encouraging trajectories right now. I really agree with Rena's point about urgency. You've heard the expression, never let a crisis go to waste. There have been many crises in the last year and a half, and that can be politically helpful to get movement. Right? I think everybody knows often the bureaucratic steps of city government are slow, and projects can delay, be slow walked to death, I guess is a way to put it. And to have windows of opportunity that you must seize or kill a project can be helpful to get a project done. I also agree with the statement about partners. We've made incredible progress on our climate goals with very little federal money. And so with the federal money going away, it means that we look at other strategies, and we have practice with that and relationships in place. So that part doesn't scare me. I think maybe one of my bigger realizations is that we are going to need to capture the revenue from these projects in order to make the next round of investments, and that climate offices need to be entrepreneurial and finding tools to keep the money they're saving, to install clean energy projects that have revenue streams that can be used to finance the next one. And I think that is probably the big challenge right now for the field, but the volatility in the market creates an opportunity to do just that. And I think that's what you will see Cincinnati working on in the year ahead.
Yeah,
Meg.
I was going, oh, sorry. Yeah, I think that being in Ohio, being a medium-sized city, we always, well, medium to large-sized city, but I feel like the way we talk about sustainability has always been very mindful of different political will, you could say, or ideology. And so I think that I look at some of my member communities that, you know, I'm in close contact with in some more progressive states like California or Illinois, and these shifts in the federal landscape have such an impact on them. Whereas I think in Ohio, we've always, at least in Dayton, grounded ourselves in, like, why are we doing our energy work? Well, it's helping save money. It's helping with grid reliability. There's this net benefit to everyone. So, and a lot of our programs, that's how we kind of talk about them. So to me, even though there was a big shift on the federal landscape and that caused stress in a lot of our timelines and funding we were going to get, a lot of the core work we were doing, we still kind of maintained. So I think that's what's so impressive about a lot of these solar projects that we all completed is like, even though the federal landscape shifted, like these projects are drivers of savings. And so that is why they're still moving forward. While I would have loved to receive the $9 million we were supposed to get from Solar for All before that grant was terminated, I still think that, like, you know, there's ways that we're finding out how to do these types of projects. So I don't want to say I ignore the political uncertainty because it does affect us, but I think that, like, I kind of feel like we were prepared for it, especially because we saw this in 2016 to 2020. I joined our sustainability office in the first Trump administration, so we were already working on a lot of these projects in Trump 1. So come Trump 2, it was a little bit of deja vu, but I think that we kind of knew how to navigate the waters. And I think the biggest difference is also trying to get our community to also talk about these benefits, like in terms of when the federal faucet kind of turns off or state faucet turns off, like, yeah, we don't have a ton of money, but like, how do we also ensure that our cities using their own resources to prioritize sustainability? And I think, again, like, the more our residents talk about how we're helping them with blight removal or we're helping them lower their energy bills, the more our work is important and prioritized. And so that is something that I think I'm currently trying to work on, because the term sustainability, like, a lot of people still don't really totally know what that means, but they get that our office lowers their bill and they know that I have come and helped them pick out what tree they want in their front yard and things like that. And so those types of affiliations, I think, are important in driving our work as well.
Great. All right. I think we're going to open up for a couple of questions from the audience. If anybody else has questions, please use the please use the Q&A feature to send your question. Our first question, and I'll just open this up to the panel, anybody who wants to jump in. What sort of project planning assistance can we identify for a small Ohio municipality to plan for municipal solar on municipal nonprofit property? Project planning assistance.
I can take this one. Oxford, we utilized Power Clean Future Ohio's technical assistance program. So they provided a like aerial assessment of our facilities to identify which may have the best ROI, maximum generation, things like that. So if you're not connected with PCFO, I really recommend them. They're wonderful.
I'll suggest an RFP. Issue a request for proposals and see if it comes back. Often, many of the proposals can do a lot of that technical assistance as part of the project. And it gives you some sense of what financing is available, what it might require. It's a way to get serious pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'll also add that, plugging again SOPEC, like, one of the reasons Dayton joined SOPEC is we loved all of the communities that they represent, especially, you know, I mean, Jennifer, you can speak to this, but how big is your smallest community? It's like less than 1,000 people probably.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was going to say, I think that SOPEC has a lot of programs and opportunities for smaller cities to get the technical resources they need to navigate the process. But I agree to Ollie's point. You have all the technical resources you can get from SOPEC, which are great. And then I think still issuing an RFP is always good, because the times that you don't do that, you don't know if you're getting the most competitive rate.
Yeah, I just want to echo the points made, and in that having that technical expertise before you get started with the RFP and RFQs helps a lot. You know, we always say that we're not like electrical engineers or solar experts. So just kind of having that language and getting yourself familiar with that landscape before you move into the RFP and the RFQs helped us a lot.
Great. And the next question is from Joe, Florida. Hi, Joe. how would you assess the scalability and long-term prospects of utilizing aggregation for offtake of local solar projects, especially while we await better statewide policy on community solar and virtual net metering?
This is sort of the challenge on my desk right now. We've taken some big steps and we want to keep going, but we're being coached that we should be reluctant to overcommit to solar in today's energy market, and that production during the day is not necessarily when we need the power, which is one of the reasons why we're getting more and more serious about batteries to help balance that load. But I think it's a bit of an open question. And I feel like if I were to bucket our technical advisors as climate scientists or climate professionals versus energy industry insiders, we get pretty different advice in terms of what is about to happen in the energy market and how we should think about energy pricing moving forward. I think people studying climate anticipate increasing prices for the foreseeable future, and industry insiders expect more status quo, that we might have elevated markets right now, but they will return to the norm in the near future. And that is really where those lines divide. It makes or breaks how a solar project will perform.
Thanks, Ollie. Anybody else? All right, we have one more question from Larry Falcon. Hi, Larry. Ohio law allows municipalities to form municipal electric companies and become the utility. Are any of you considering doing that? Is it a tool to go big faster on owning generation assets?
Well, I was going to say, if you speak to one of my commissioners, he is very passionate about us starting our municipal utility. I think it's, if you're interested in, and you might already know this, but if you're interested in seeing, Cuyahoga County is kind of doing a model where their county is adopting, trying to start kind of their own utility. And while there is a lot of benefits of ownership in terms of like, you can get your own assets online and you have more control, and some argue that, again, it can help lower energy bills. The other end of things, that infrastructure investment, whether you're taking that from an existing utility and purchasing it or building out your own, is really expensive. So I was going to say, it has been something that I think a lot of Ohioans have been talking about, and I see a lot of cities thinking about it. But I will say, to me personally, there's a lot of pros, but there's also some large cons, especially that investment cost. That you have to kind of think through as you think about working through. But from a clean energy perspective, I think municipal utilities are really something that a lot of folks who are in the clean energy space are looking at, because it's easier to deploy clean energy assets online.
And it's still in the Ohio Constitution.
Can I pass it that?
Thank you. Ollie, go ahead.
So yes, Larry, you're right. We also now have House Bill 15, which provides some new tools for delivering power to adjacent parcels. I think Meg spoke to that earlier. Another way to put that is, if we focus on developing, owning clean energy generation, we can have most of the benefits of operating like utility without the liability and obligation of maintaining the lines. So I think there's a scalability in pursuing new generation without the capital needs for wires. That feels like a larger opportunity to me right now.
Anyone else?
I can speak to like the smaller community aspect, sort of maybe on behalf of Fairfield and Oxford. We do have a peer community around a similar size that does own their own utility in Hamilton, Ohio. But kind of like Meg and Ollie spoke, I don't know that smaller communities, I guess I'll speak for Fairfield, are not ready to make that capital investment. And we're trying to model and see how this behind the meter and, modeling this amount of responsibility before we take on anything else, and expanding this network before we would take on anything else. But I think it would vary based on where you are, and especially I think again, Ohioans in the clean energy space are definitely focused on this. So there's folks who are interested in investing a lot into this infrastructure.
Thanks, Jillian. We are running up on time. I do have one more lightning round question for the panel before we go. Let's see. Just before the question, just to let you know, just housekeeping, I'll be following up with an email to let everyone know where to find the recording. And also, Mac Johnson put in the Q&A, suggested seeing the Minster, Ohio Municipal Utility Success Story case study on YouTube, and that link is in the Q&A if you want to grab it. Thanks, Mac. So here is the final question for each of you today. For any community that's interested in exploring its options for solar, including those who may not yet have a sustainability plan or a dedicated sustainability staff, what would the first step be that you would recommend them taking? Or what would be the one piece of advice you would give? And we'll start with Rena again.
Yeah, I would say don't give up. You're going to try a lot of things and not all of them will be successful, and that is okay. But also focus on what is important to your community. We all kind of talked about the different motivating factors of our community and our elected officials. So see where you think you can get buy-in and a win, and keep trying if it doesn't happen.
Great advice. Jillian?
Yeah, huge echo to that. Be persistent and start when you don't have to know everything to get started. There's so much that you're going to learn along the way through this process. I know that that's been the case for me and my team. We've said this before, but join networks and groups that have done this before. Reach out to those folks, reach out to us. Again, just want to say, use us as a resource. We're here and to help, and see what worked and what didn't for other folks, so you know what to expect, where the bumps in the roads are, and what to avoid.
Great. Ollie?
One of the fun things about this work is it doesn't matter what we accomplish if the other cities aren't doing the same work. We really all need to be doing it. So yeah, call Jillian, call Rena, call Meg, call me. But I really think starting with an RFP, putting a signal out to the world that you're interested in this, you will get responses, and it will give you a much better picture of what avenues are available and can help you start to plot. You have a host of partners on the call here who can give you sort of critical feedback on what you receive and help you come up with a strategy.
Great. Meg, you get the last word.
I think for me, it's like, again, Dayton started with an office of one person. And I think the way that we were successful is we figured out the most direct path in leadership and who needed to be at the table to make these decisions. There's a lot of people that are going to tell you no, or you don't know how to do it, or the reason why it won't work. And you kind of have to block out the noise a little bit and just have the ambition to get it done. I always say just be really optimistic that it's all going to work out, because everything falls apart before it comes together. And just making sure you have the right leaders at the table to actually help you get that decision so that you can push it forward is, I think, a key to having success early on. So.
Well, that would be a pretty good motto, block out the noise, let in the sun. Okay, so this has been really a wonderful discussion and a reminder of just how lucky we are to have such high caliber sustainability leadership in our region. Fantastic Four, whatever you want to call them. So we're really lucky. And like I said, I'll be following up with an email to let everybody know about where to find the recording. Also to let you know that SOPAC is just starting this month again to work with IREC on Soul Smart again, and we'll be reaching out to communities to see if they want to use that tool to get rid of red tape and make their communities solar ready. Anyway, thank you so much to our panel and to everyone in the audience. It's been a really great conversation, and I'm really looking forward to seeing all or most of you on Friday at the summit. Thanks very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.